in Ireland at the moment. We are we have a whole vibrant network of volunteers and community activists in a wide number of areas in the country. And essentially we're working to ensure that all families in Ireland have access to a school of this type. It doesn't necessarily have to be run by ourselves. In order that we don't have any situation in the country where a family feels that they are compelled to send their children to a faith-based school against their conscience and lawful preference. And that means that we're trying to build a national network in which essentially the way that we look at it is that there should be an Educate Together school available to all families in the country within 30 minutes travel time in the rush hour in the morning. Where I live in Dublin, that's probably about 3 kilometres, but in other parts of the country that could be 30, 40 kilometres. And it means that in reality, in order to address this structural problem in Irish education, we are working that by the year 2050 there will be around something in the region of 300 schools of the Educate Together type. And we feel that the dynamics and the structures that we're putting in place will enable that to happen. So anyway, nobody interrupted me. I was rather hoping somebody might. But, sorry.
If I may say, thank you very much. First of all, I really enjoyed your talk, and I really congratulate you on what you're doing, which is fantastic. As a minority, I'm a minority, and I am a British Bangladeshi. I came to the UK about 20 years ago because I faced intellectual persecution in the country I come from. One of the main reasons I came from because of the freedom. I'm not ignorant of minority, all respect for people who are. I came here because of the freedom that I saw in the West, and which I cherished, and I'm still trying to nourish. What I faced here, what I've heard here from you is, to be honest, shocking to me. Because when I read the European Convention on Human Rights, first of all, Article 10, first of all, that I have freedom of education. If the freedom of education, the government has also the duty, obligation to safeguard my positive rights and not interfere in my negative rights as well. So they have a positive duty and a negative duty. So to interfere with my education, which is interfering, is obviously a breach of that positive duty. And I am a father, and my son goes to a school, I believe that, although I'm a devout Muslim myself, I believe that no child should be indoctrinated. A child's faith should be open, and he should be the one to choose when he grows up. That's what I believe. And thank God I am not from Saudi Arabia. And also what I saw, my son coming back from school the other day, which was shocking to me. He's not here, he's in Belfast. That my son was very sad when he came back from school. That's why I congratulated him. Because he said, Dad, I don't want to go back to school tomorrow. I said, why? He said, when everybody sings a certain hymn or song, my son doesn't have to sing, but he feels left out. And I think that's a discrimination. When I chose to come to the West, I do not celebrate Christmas as a Christian thing anymore. I get together with my non-Muslim friends, with my Christian buddies, and I celebrate Christendom as a national holiday. And if I don't think my son should, I want my son to have a better future, because by all means, I am a European citizen. Many may not like it, but I am. And many of my friends don't like it, because we're vegetarian. And so, what you're doing, I believe, we don't need any subject. This has to be going to the courts, I think, because my son, I don't want my son to end up in a school where he will lose that liberty of making his decision. I don't mind if he becomes a Christian, atheist, whatever. It's his life anyway. If I'm a father, I will teach him whatever he wants to. We should learn. And I'm sorry, I'm taking a bit long because it's very much connected with my passion. And as a minority, I think there should be something. There should be a movement, not like a survey thing. It should be a movement, because I think it's absolutely illegal to impose a child of whatever religious belief he wants to. Because that child loses the liberty of understanding the freedom of mind when he grows up. Because I'm a Muslim by choice. I'm not a Muslim by accident. I'm not a Muslim by indoctrination. If anybody wants to become a Christian, atheist, agnostic, deist, whatever, he should have that option of freedom of choice. A child loses that liberty. Because I come from a country where there are fanatic Muslims as well, and they cannot accept why innocence or making of innocence of movie is not insulting. I don't find that insulting. I'm a devout Muslim. I read Quran. So I believe that is destroyed when a child grows up. I don't want, it doesn't matter, even having a cross, even having a crescent on the back, that makes me feel disconnected. Thank you very much. And thank you, congratulations on what you do.
Well, I mean, I think that I would have to say that in the context of my job, I hear that type of story, over and over again. And the best story I can probably give is a contractor came to fix the printers in our office once. And he came from Roscommon, and they were a Protestant family, and their children had gone to the Catholic school, and the older child had asked for their older child to be absented from the First Communion confirmation classes, and the older child had felt isolated, ended up getting very unhappy, possibly a bit of bullying, or it was very difficult to point out, but so that they had actually taken the child out of school and sent her to a boarding school. And then what was really cutting to me is that then they said, well, then their next daughter was ready to start school, and they sat at the kitchen table and they said, well, shall we ask for her to be absented as well? And this guy said, so well, I looked at my wife, we looked at each other and said, well, was it worth it? And they said, she didn't ask to be born a Protestant, and yet it's, we can insist on our rights, but it's going to be our child that's going to be put outside the classroom, or sitting in the corridor, or in the principal's office. And what did they do? They said, no, we're not going to make an issue of it. And if you can think of it, I mean, these things happen. I can give you stories after stories after story, but the reality is, because of that pressure, this fundamental violation of human rights is driven underground, and this is the reason.
Why should I send my child? Sorry, sir. Why should I be sending my child to boarding school anyway? Because if I can afford, that will be a violation of my right to have a family.
Yes, but I'm not suggesting that this is right. This is an illustrative thing. Another illustration which I found particularly, I live on the north side and on the up the Navan Road, and I remember another of the parents. I mean, these parents eventually gravitated to educated schools, but they so that there was a woman who married a northern Protestant, Presbyterian, and so that and they had a little boy, and the little boy went to the local school. It was out in Blanchardstown. Mary, Mother of Hope was the name of the school, and they told the story of that their son John was on the phone to his granny in Belfast, and said, well, my first day in school was all really excited, etc. So my first day, and Granny said, well, what's the name of your school? Can you perceive this to a northern Presbyterian, right? My school is Mary, Mother of Hope, right? And there was just a big silence from the other end of the line, and then of course Granny said, "Oh, isn't that nice?" See, this is where it becomes very. When you engage in these issues, children learn far more at that age by body language. They learn, because their grasp of actual language is relatively weak at that age. I'm talking about 4 to 5. And they learn by what they see people doing. And you know, just that gap, that gasp on the other end of the line, spoke volumes to that child. They knew immediately that Granny was deeply upset by the fact that, and you're theologians, and you know the significance between how the huge gulf between what the Presbyterian thinks about Mary, Mother of the Virgin Mary, and what perception of the Catholic view. But there you are. That's another real example. Or the other examples that we actually directly see now is young Muslim children picking out crosses picking out the cross out of a school emblem, because in the Middle East the cross historically is probably as difficult for people as we would regard a swastika on a school uniform, if you think in terms of the history of the Crusades, etc. So there are all these. When I talk about deeply embedded religious discrimination in our society, and say that it's not just the administrative and legal form, but it's the cultural forms. I mean, I've come into Irish education as an outsider, and you step into it and you ask a few basic questions. But over and over again, if you step back, you see that there is a huge assumption that the right way to think is, the majority church's way to think. And if you don't think that way, for example, the Irish Primary Principles Network, for the first time last year, right, did not have a Catholic and a Protestant grace at their annual dinner. For the very first time, and the Irish Primary Principles Network said, hang on a minute, they're up. We actually should recognise that there are people in this room who may not be Christians, who may not be Catholic or Protestant. But that was in 2000, well, it was 2000.